Okay.
So
Can you see that okay?
yes, we can see it.
Okay, great. So as Tabari said, today I'm just going to go through the platform itself and the city dashboard, as well as what we call the ORS, the online response system. But before we kind of dive into the whole dashboard and the pieces that are sort of behind a login wall, I just wanted to show you the guidance page for cities, which is publicly available on our website, and which contains the questionnaire on an online format and in a PDF as well, or you can export it into a PDF. So this page is just available on our website. You can get to it by clicking guidance and questionnaires at the top here. And then if you click on cities questionnaire, you can see that here there's an option for WWF's One Planet City Challenge 2019. So if you click on that, you will see a questionnaire that contains only the questions that are required to respond to and to fulfill the requirements of WWF's One Planet City Challenge. So this is a really useful resource if you're looking to find out what sort of data we're looking to collect. Shang will talk a little bit more about it later, but this is a really good place to just find out what kind of data is required. And you can see here under each question, there's a little piece of text that just confirms that this question is required by the WWF One Planet City Challenge. Okay, great. So now I've shown you that, I will show you how to actually sign in, access your dashboard, and start responding to the questionnaire. So many of you will have, oh, sorry, I just need to get this. So many of you will have already received an activation link and an invitation to report email. If your city hasn't received that invitation email, please do contact CDP or cities@cdp.net or contact your ICLEI or WWF contact, whoever you're in contact with, and they'll help you get registered. So once you get the activation link, you click the activation link, and then you'll just have to register and create a password. And then once you've got a password, you'll get a confirmation email, and then it will take you directly to this sign-in page. So then you just sign in as normal. So signing in takes you directly to your city dashboard. So this is just a test account that I've created for the purposes of showing you this, the dashboard and the ORS. So in the dashboard, there's all sorts of useful things. As you can see here in the very beginning, there's just some instructions on how to change the language of your dashboard. So the dashboard and the questionnaire are available in 6 different languages, as you can see. English, Spanish, French, Japanese, Portuguese, and simplified Chinese. So as you go further down the dashboard, you can see a little user space here. So multiple users within the same city can log in and answer the same questionnaire. So you can be working on it at the same time. You can work together on answering the questionnaire. So you'll see details of any colleagues that are working on the questionnaire with you in this contributor section. So you can see this is just my test contact there. So I'll skip this bit for now and just show you the rest of the dashboard. So this is the analytics and insight block. So this is where once you've submitted, you can come and find lots of interesting information, which is provide you some feedback on your response. So the snapshot report is a report that provides you comparisons against other cities in your regions and where you sit. It also provides your city with a score. The Cities Analytics is a kind of online data analysis platform where you can benchmark your city against other cities. You can search for specific cities or specific countries. It's a really kind of interesting tool to use. And if you, all your data, once you submit, will be available in analytics as well. So this is just an area where you've got some more information on the partners that we work with. And then interestingly here, we also have an announcements block. So that talks about upcoming events or reports that we've released using the data you report. And then if we go further down, there's some further resources, tools that you can use to complete the questionnaire, little My Files section, and then importantly down here at the bottom, there is a space where you can find information on who to contact if you need help or support. Okay, great. So I will move back up to what we call the questionnaire block. So if you had reported to us in 2018, you don't need to go through the activation link step. You should just be able to sign in and you'll see your city's 2019 questionnaire block here. So it will have all just automatically updated for 2019. So here you can see some, so for this test account, I've just made up that the city is already a part of C40 cities and is an ICLEI network city. So they have the Carbon Climate Registry authority here. So you can see which what we call authorities, so which organizations or initiatives you've been requested to report by here. And then if you click show details, it takes you down to this list. And so you can see which initiatives you are kind of a part of or which organizations you've been requested to report by with this tick in a circle here. And then there's much more guidance here, including a webinar schedule. So once you're ready to begin filling in the questionnaire, you would just hit confirm participation. And then once you've hit confirm participation, you go through a series of onboarding screens. So this is the first one, and this is just confirming that you are what we call the main user for that organization or for the city. So as you can see, all the details are here, but basically this is just to ensure that so the main user is the person who can start responding to the questionnaire, can accept all the terms and conditions, and can actually submit the response. So it's just to ensure that only the person who has the permissions and has confirmed that they have those permissions actually submits the questionnaire. So they're not, so no one strangers submitting responses on behalf of the city that they don't belong to, or they haven't given permission to report that data. So if the person who is logging in is happy to take on that responsibility as the main user and has the right to submit the data on behalf of the city, they just confirm that I'm authorized to be the main user. And there's a little bit more information here if you click the FAQs, which gives you a bit more of a detailed breakdown of what the different users are. So then you just hit continue. And so then now we get to the second of the onboarding screens, which is kind of, the really important one for this, for the purposes of this, for the WWF One Planet City Challenge. So in this case, I've allowed the city to opt in. We call it opting into joining other initiatives. So here we can see that WWF One Planet City Challenge is here. So if I want the city to take part in this challenge, I would just hit join, and it's as easy as that. And then so there are a few other initiatives. There's the Global Covenant of Mayors, whether you want to opt in to become part of that. There's also an initiative under ICLEI, which is the 100% renewable energy campaign, so you could also do that if you wish to. So once you've hit join, you just go finish, and then it takes a few seconds while it updates your questionnaire with the appropriate questions. So the great thing about, it may have just, okay. So it's taking me back to the dashboard. That's a good thing actually, because I just wanted to show you that now, once I'm back in the dashboard, I can see that it's added WWF One Planet City Challenge to my dashboard. And you can see that as a city, I have chosen to take part in the initiative, as there's the circle with the tick in it. And then you can also see that any initiatives I didn't choose to opt into during the onboarding screens will appear on the dashboard with a little join button, so you can join them at a later date if you've decided that that's what you want to do. So once we hit continue, this should take us straight into the what we call the ORS, so the online response system. So this is where you actually answer the questions of the questionnaire. And the questions within the questionnaire will be specifically tailored to the initiatives you're a part of. So So in this case, in the questionnaire, I'll only see questions that are requested by C40 cities and by WWF One Planet City Challenge, as well as CDP and ICLEI. So once I am in the questionnaire, you can begin responding. I'll show you some of the main features that will help you navigate, move around and use this system. So this is a good one to know. So there's a little navigation bar on the left here, which shows you all the different sections of the questionnaire. So you can skip down. So if you've already completed governance and data management, you can skip down to climate hazards and see all the different questionnaires, and just helps you navigate a little bit easier. So it should be quite easy to use once you're actually in it. A lot of the questions are drop-down questions, so you would just select the correct answer. Some questions are table questions, so they have multiple columns that you would have to fill in. So, and then you can add in as many columns as you want. So that's what you do using this add row feature here. So you would answer each column within that question, and you can add rows. So if it's for example about hazards, so you can add in as many climate hazards as you would like to. So another great thing about the platform is the audit log. So the audit log, so if you have multiple people working on the questionnaire at the same time, sometimes it's tricky to know who's changed what and what's happened when. So the audit log shows you exactly what changes have been made by who and when. Which is very useful if you're trying to, it's kind of like track changes in Word or PowerPoint or something. So that's very useful. Another useful tool in here is the export import functions. So once you've completed some of your questionnaire, you might want to export it and view it offline or share it with a colleague, for example. So you can do that here. So you can either export into Word or Excel. So Word is only for viewing offline. So if you're exporting it into Word, you just want to have a look at it. That's what you would use the Word export for. The Excel export is really handy because what you can do is you can export it, you can edit it offline, and then you can re-import it back into your response, and that will populate your response on the online system. So you would just hit import here, and then you would drag your exported file that you filled in, and then it will upload it for you. So that's really useful. Let me check I haven't missed anything. Yeah, so I also just wanted to cover the few pieces of help text and where to find more guidance. So as you can see against each question here, there's a little question mark. And if you hover over that, you'll see that there is some kind of basic explanation of what we're asking here and some more guidance. There's also links underneath each question to the full guidance that I showed you earlier. So, and what's useful about it is that it takes you to that specific question. So the guidance for that specific question. So there's much more details here and links to other tools, other guidance from, as you can see here, from UN Habitat. So yeah, it really provides you with a lot of different guidance. So once you are ready to submit your questionnaire, you go to submit your response. And then, so once you go to submit your response, you just have to fill in the questions that are asterisk red here, and then you can hit submit at the top. So let me say I'm submitting my, so you just have to specify which language you're submitting your response in. Confirm that you've read the terms and conditions. And then in this case, as you are reporting to WWF's One Planet City Challenge, you only have the option to report publicly. So that's already selected for you. It's the same with the Global Covenant of Mayors as well. So once you've completed that page, you can just hit submit. And then it says, thank you for your submission. So this is just the submission page, tells you about some upcoming things. And then once that's done, you should just be able to come back to your dashboard. Let me just refresh. just going to be a bit slow. It takes a little bit of time, so you'll see it's just taking its time. It's just sending all your data to the to our data warehouse. So, but then once that's all done, you'll see a tick, and it just means you will have submitted. So that's it. Let me stop sharing my screen. I hope that was clear, and very, very happy to answer any questions you have. Did you want to do questions now, Tabari, or do you want to do them at the end?
Let's do it at the end. Thanks, Pandora, for this. So yes, let me just say a few words after you have speaking. So if we have the collaboration we're having with CDP and ICLEI goes into many fronts. And I think it's very important for you, dear participants, that any technical question related to the CDP reporting platform is directed to Pandora through cities@cdp.net. We will have time for questions at the end of this webinar. I have seen a couple of questions already in the chat box. Thanks for those that have been submitting them. But now I would like to move to the next part before we engage in a full conversation on the whole process of reporting to the OPCC. So once again, Pandora, thanks for giving us this overview, very useful. And now I would like to change to the second part of this webinar that will focus more in specific in the actual questionnaire, the questions that need to be submitted through the platform. And for that, I will call Chang to join us. Chang, are you there? I can see you, you're muted. There you go.
Yes, I
Perfect.
am.
Thanks, Chang. So the floor is completely yours.
Okay, thank you. Can I share my screen? Perfect. To start sharing and go. Okay, thank you, Tabata, and good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Chandon back from ICLEI Water Secretariat. In ICLEI, if you didn't know us, we are a network of more than 1,700 cities active in 100 countries committed to the sustainable urban development. And we have been working with WWF for the OPCC, previously known as EHCC, since 2011. So we're really honored to be partner with this great initiative, and we wish this year's collaboration will be as great and fruitful as forever. And the first great news I would like to bring to you from this webinar is in this year, CDP and ICLEI joined a collaboration for data collection, which means that all the report will go through one simplified entry point. And which means you who joins the OPCC will only need to report once on the CDP platform. All the publicly reported data will be automatically shared with ICLEI and WWF. You do not need to double entry your information. And for the ones that participate to OPCC, or previously known as the Earth Hour City Challenge EHCC, on the Carbon Climate Registry. If you wish to have your data, your old data, previously year reported data, to be transferred to CDP platform and used as the basis and reference for this year's report, please contact ICLEI at carbon@iclei.org. You will see that email address later. And we have secured some activity to manually transfer your data, but please give us this notification as soon as possible and ensure this notification is submitted no later than the 15th of May so that we have enough time for your data transfer and also leave you enough time to review it and update it. And now let's move on to this year's questionnaire. And as Pandora just demonstrated on the platform, after login or register, you can choose against which initiative you want to report this year. Please make sure that you choose all the applicable initiatives that you would like to join. You will only receive one questionnaire against all the initiatives that you have opted in. And in this demonstration, I will use a static questionnaire considering you joining all of the initiative above, but I will highlight the questions that required by WWF's One Planet City Challenge in 2019. So as Pandora introduced, the CDP platform has a very handy toolbar indicating how many sections is there of the questionnaire. And here I have highlighted the sections that containing required questions for WWF's OPCC evaluation in 2019. They are the introduction section, where you type in the basic geopolitical information as benchmark indicators. The adaptation section, which include the climate hazard identified and the target and actions for alleviate any identified climate hazard. And then in the mitigation section, where you're supposed to report the greenhouse gas inventory, as well as actions or target to reduce those greenhouse gases emitted. And finally, in the energy section, and information will add value to your final WWF evaluation if you report any energy consumption or generation performance and the target and actions against it. Now let's dive into details. So in the introduction section, let me pull out the reporting sheet so you'll have more detail. There are 2 questions in the use this bar in the introduction section. There are 2 questions required by the WWF One Planet City Challenge, which you can see easily with this notification bar here. One is 0.1 is a general description of your city, where you identify the level of community and give a description of your city. Please note that this administrative boundary will help us find peers for comparison of your city's report, and this description will be displayed on the Carbon Climates Registry website. And so make sure that you insert valuable information will enhance your publicity. And the next required question is the leader's information, that including the mayor's name, the title, and the starting and ending of his or her term. Again, this information will be displayed on the Carbon Climate Registry website, and it will add the trustworthiness or publicity for your city's leadership. And then we move to the next section. And one notification here is please note that on the CDP platform, cities and states and regions are reported separately from 2 portals and will see different questionnaires. And in this year, only cities questionnaire is tailor-made for OPCC and the GCOM and etc. If you are a state or regional government, you want to participate to OPCC. In the meantime, you also want to participate to the Under 2 coalition, please contact us. You can either contact CDP or contact ICLEI. We will make a special arrangement for you to ensure you receive all the required questions. And the next part is the climate hazard and adaptation section. And here you will mainly be asking for 3 types of questions. The first is the 4 types of questions, sorry. And the first is in section 2.0, where you're supposed to insert the detailed information for the vulnerability assessment. And then in question 2.1, you will be reporting every hazard identified in a table. Later I will illustrate. And then in section 3.0, you will be required to report the adaptation actions for each identified hazard above. And then in 3.1, you will be reporting the adaptation plans. And finally, in 3.2, you will be reporting adaptation targets. And here is how. And in in section 3.0, where first you upload the risk and vulnerability assessment, and then and then you insert the detailed information in the table below. And if you have, you can click add row to add more items that will align to the same structure as the table here. And then follow that, you will be entering the information for, this is you will be entering the publication to address climate change adaptation. And then if you do not have such publication ready, you can entering where the barrier is. When CDP and ICLEI received this information, and we might consider joining you to the relevant activities and program, help you to overcome the barriers. Then in the second section, please describe the goals, your target for climate adaptation. Again, here you can describe your target year, main indicator, and the KPI in terms of percentage, and the relationship to different level of government. And you can add as many targets as you wish in this table here. That is for the adaptation section. And finally, we're entering the mitigation. Oh, the mitigation section. Yeah, and the mitigation section is spread into question 4 and question 5. And in question 4, you're supposed to report to the greenhouse gas inventory. And then in section 5, you're supposed to report mitigation target, actions, and action plan. And let's dive into the inventory first. And I would again use demonstration here from the section 4. And first, you're indicating the status for greenhouse gas inventory. If you have an inventory, if it is under development, or you do not have intent to undertake it. And once you choose no, later you're going to justify where the barrier is. Again, we will use this information to help you overcome the barrier. Then in 4.1, you would define the time boundary, which is in which calendar year the inventory is established. Based on which year's information your inventory is established. And then in 4.2, we will capture the geographic boundary. If it is covering all the geographic boundary area, or if it has some exclusion, if it is included anywhere else that out of the geographic boundary, but within the operational boundary of the government. This information will help us compare and track changes of your inventory over years. And then in the next section, 4.3, we're collecting information of the methodology used, again, to keeping track of your inventory. We have to make sure that the same inventory and same boundary is used across the years. And then if you're using a specific tool that's recommended by GCOM using the Common Reporting Framework or the GPC tool, here you have a location to upload this document, and which you can download when you register. And number 40 in question 4.4, you can report which greenhouse gases is covered within this inventory. And finally, in question 4.5, you can attach the greenhouse gas inventory as well as reporting a summary in the table. Here, the platform provided several formats for you to report the greenhouse gas inventory. The format is containing from question 4.6a to 4.6e. But please be careful that the WWF One Planet City Challenge required the city to submit their inventory as attachment as well as summary only for 4.6.a structure or the 4.6 6B structure. Only this 2 structure is allowed if you're a participant for WWF's One Planet City Challenge. Here for the D and so on, there's it is not recommended by the OPCC. And then let's move to section 5, where you're supposed to report your greenhouse gas emission reduction target. And here you can choose the target type. First in 5.0, choose the target type, and then for each target type, you will fill in the table for the detail of the target, that including in which sector your target will take effort on, and then where in where the sources, if it is different than the inventory you submitted before, please make explanation so that we can cross comparing your target against the inventory submitted before. And again, the boundary for this target, would that be the same boundary as the inventory you submitted before, or only covering part of it, or only as a sectorial target? And then the basic information is base year, target year, and once you choose a base year target, you also need to illustrate the base year emission. And then the target in terms of percentage, the target year, and then the estimated target year emission if the target is achieved. And finally, you will provide the percentage of target achieved if your target is already implemented. And we would also like you to provide an estimation of your target's contribution to the 1.5 or 2 degree goal, and as well as in which sector your target applies to. And finally, a comparison to your target's ambitiousness and to other level governments' target's ambitiousness. The structure is similar for all type of targets, and for the interest of time, I will not introduce all type of target at this stage. And then followed by that in 5.1, sorry, this is not in 5.3, we are capturing information if this target including using transferable emission units, because we know many cities, especially the advanced cities in OPCC, have 100% which is zero emission target, and in which case we would like to track if you're using transferable emission unit and therefore avoid the double counting of the final target impact. And then in section 5.4, we welcome you to report mitigation actions that you planned and implemented or finalized for reaching the target reported above. And finally, in section 5.5, you can report the mitigation plans that your local government set up. Please be aware that if you have any action or action plan that has both mitigation and adaptation impact, you have to first consider what is the primary focus for this action or action plan, and then report it accordingly in section 3 or in section 5 to avoid double counting of planning impact. And finally, in section 8, section 8, we are collecting energy related information such as your energy target, your energy inventory, that is the energy consumption, and generation portfolio. Those sections are not required but will provide added value to your OPCC evaluation. So even though in this section so far here you could not see the bar that it is required by the OPCC, but it is highly recommended to fill in this section. that's a snapshot. And I know that this 20 minutes will not be enough to go through every question, but we provide detailed guidance, pretty much explaining the definition and example for every question. Feel free to download that. And if you have any question, feel free to contact me at carbon@eclay.org. Now back to you, Tabela.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Chang. I think, as you rightly pointed out, there's never enough time to cover in detail all these things. But as you said, also, I think it is very good that if you participant cities in the OPCC have any technical questions related to the questionnaire or anything else that you think our colleagues at ECLAY, the local governance for sustainability, can help us with, please feel free to contact them at carbon@eclay.org. So thanks again, Pandora. Thanks again, Chang, for these quick overviews of the process of reporting, as well as the process, the details of what we should be reporting to participate in the OPCC. Now, I think there have been a couple of questions, and now I would like to open the floor for those questions to be answered. Let me unmute you, Pandora. So now, thanks to those that have been submitting your questions on the chat box. We have many. Let's try to cover all of them. So I will proceed to read those, and maybe you, Pandora and Chan, can help me in answering these ones. So I think the first question is asking us about, I will read it. If the city has completed the C40, ECLAY, or CDP form, is that information automatically updated to the OPCC, or should they charge it again? I think that's a question perhaps more for you, Pandora. Can you give us an answer to this?
Yes, sure. So if you had, so it kind of depends. If you had reported to CDP in 2018, then once you go into the platform, so once you go into the ORS, you will see your 2018 response. And so then you might want to just update it, and then you can submit it. But you need to do that step that I did in the onboarding screens by just opting into the OPCC before you get into the questionnaire. And then from there, when you submit, the data will be shared with WWF and ICLAY. If you have not opted in through the onboarding and you've just submitted your data to C40 and ICLAY, your data won't be shared with the OPCC. So you do really need to make sure that you take that step of opting into the OPCC.
Perfect, very clear. So if you remember, your participants, when Pandora was showing us the dashboard, you have that option to opt in into OPCC. So that's very fundamental that you do it in order to upload your information and will transfer whenever is needed. So we have another question here for you, Pandora, coming from our colleagues in Sweden. And I will read the question. If they do the online reporting, can they be sure all data is safe if they pause their work and then come back to continue? That is, all data will be saved automatically when doing online reporting, or do they have to save in some way?
Yes, so as you are filling in the questionnaire, I don't know if you noticed, but as you're filling in the questionnaire, there's a little green kind of saved icon that appears. So once you complete a question, it says saved. So you can see that it's saving. There's also, as I think the question points out, there's also a save button at the very top of the page, which you can also, click just to be sure. But yes, of course, you can fill in as much as you want and then go away, you log out, do something else, and then come back at a later stage, and all your responses will be saved in the platform until you're ready to submit and you hit that submit button. Yeah, so you by no means do you have to do it all in one go.
Perfect, thanks, Pandora. I think we have a question here for Chan, and probably I will combine it with some others. The question is basically if the reporting can be submitted in different languages. I have the concrete ask if the information can be submitted in German, as well as if the information can be submitted in Spanish. I think we normally prefer the submission in English, but please correct me. I think, can we do also reporting in other languages, Chang and Pandora?
I mean, Chang, I can let you answer, but the platform, you are able to answer the questionnaire and view the dashboard in the 6 different languages. I'm afraid German is not one of them, but Spanish is one of them. So the 6 languages are English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, and simplified Chinese.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let me just check that Chan, you're still there and you are not muted. I think you are muted, Chang.
Awesome. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I agree with Pandora. First, in this case, German is not in the language this platform is providing now, and technically we accept submission in all languages. However, for the effectiveness of evaluation and for the publicity of on the display end, we would prefer you provide especially the descriptions in English.
Thank you very much, Shang. Thanks, Pandora. I have another question in here. Let me see if I think this one goes back to the idea of working offline, online. The question is, you can come back to submit information whenever you want until the time is over. I guess this refers to the deadline of submission, right? So the deadline of July the 10th. So maybe Pandora and Chang, so this is correct? We can always come back to our information submission portal to update and do changes to that?
Yes, exactly. So as I said, you know, you can go in at any point, make changes, and it'll save them, and then you can go away and you come back in. If you and you can do that up until the deadline, as you say, the 10th of July. If you submit before the 10th of July, it's a little bit more complicated to go in and make changes after you've submitted. You'd have to request what we call an amendment through CDP or through ICLAI. So that's a slightly different process. But yes, before you submit, you can go in and change as much as you want before the deadline.
Perfect. Thank you. We have another question in here, I think from our colleagues in Austria. So the question is, when you choose OPCC through ICLAI, you end up on the CDP page. So I guess this goes back to the exercise you did, Pandora, when you were clicking the opt-in and then you were transferred back to the dashboard. So how can you go back to that, explaining quickly how that works? Once you opt in, what happens?
Yeah, so once you opt in, and then you hit finish, you should get taken straight into the ORS. I just went back into the dashboard so that I could show you that that in the dashboard it shows once you've hit that join button or the opt-in button in that onboarding page, then it just shows you that you are definitely part of, you know, you are submitting your data to WWF at One Planet City Challenge. So you can see that the block in the dashboard that shows you that. So yeah, so once you opt in to report to WWF, that's the case, and your data will be transferred to them.
Perfect.
Also worth noting that, you know, reporting through the CDP platform, CDP also gets your data, if that's what you mean by the CDP page. Yeah, CDP also receives your data.
Perfect. Thank you. So we have a couple of minutes for more questions. We have 5 more minutes. So I have this question that probably goes to the One Planet Cities team. So local governments like departments, provinces can participate in OPCC? Yes. And in fact, we have had that in the past. Do cities need to upload evidence of what they are reporting? Maybe Chang, can you help us with that one? Do cities need to upload evidence of what they are reporting?
In many cases in the questionnaire, the city is required to submit attachment as the evidence of the reporting. Yes.
Perfect. Thanks. Let me go to a couple of more. So this is a good one. About the reporting of greenhouse gas inventories, Chang. So the question says only some, that is 4A, are mandatory and the others are not required, or should not be reported. So the question is that if all greenhouse gases are required to be reported, or we are just invited to report on those. And that's a question regarding the element of the fourth section of the questionnaire, 4A.
I think Chang is muted, Tabari.
Oh, Chang, let me see. So you should be unmuted now, Chang.
Hi, yeah, thanks. I don't know why the system was mute me. Okay. Yes, I think you might referring two sections. One is which greenhouse gases is included in the inventory. In the questionnaire, we required the city to tell us if you only consider the CO2 or you consider all 7 greenhouse gases that illustrated in the IPCC guidance. And this information will help us understand the comprehensiveness of our inventory, and then also keep changes over year and use it as a reference to make comparison against other cities. And the second part might be you're asking for question 4.6, in which format you will report the greenhouse gas inventory. It means that you can the CDP platform allows you to submit the inventory in several formats, but the OPCC recommend you to submit it only in 2 formats, as 4.6A and 4.6B, that are GPC completable, or according to the new GCOM CRF. I hope I answer your question.
Thanks, Chang. So we have a question coming from Argentina. Very interesting question. The question goes in this way. It looks that in Argentina they're preparing an action plan, a climate action plan, but it is not ready yet. So the question is there any way to express this in the CDP report? So to say that there is an ongoing effort to create an action plan, but it is not ready and will be ready until next year?
I think there is in the drop-down list as under progress as the status of the action plan, so you can illustrate it in that section.
Perfect. I think we have time for another 2 or 3 questions. Thanks for those that are submitting. We have many of them that shows a lot of interest, and of course a lot of information that we need to provide to clarify. We will do that as, on a follow-up for those questions that we are not able to answer because of time constraints. But let's cover another 3 before we jump into the next section. This one asks us if cities can allow a representative to submit to the CDP the information on their behalf. So reading literally the question, can cities allow a representative to submit the CDP for them, such as local WWF offices?
Maybe Pandora, you want to address it because it's relating to the GDPR.
Yes, I can address this. I'm afraid that we really don't advise cities to allow other representatives outside of their city to submit data on their behalf. Obviously, you know, I just think that in terms of GDPR, and because you have to hit the, you know, agreeing to the terms and conditions, and by agreeing to the terms and conditions, you're confirming that you are a representative from the city and you have permission to submit that data on behalf of the city. So yeah, we would advise against it, basically.
Perfect. Let me ask you one thing to you, Pandora and Chang, because I skipped that question, unfortunately, and I think it's very relevant. So those cities that have reported before to CDP or Carbon, I understand they receive a link for registration, and from that they can start well, doing the process of reporting. But what happens with those new cities, those cities that have not reported in the past? How can they have access to this link or to these initial steps of the reporting process?
Yeah, so basically they just have to email cities@cdp.net. And then what we'll do is we'll set you up with your account and everything, and we'll send you that activation link. So it's just a case of emailing cities@cdp.net. But you can also, if you already have, or you're already working with someone within WWF or someone within ICLEI, I'm sure they can pass on your email to us as well, and we'll make sure that you get set up.
Perfect, thank you. So I'll offer one final question, because this is an acronym, and to be honest, I didn't know it myself either. So the question is, can you explain GDPR for non-European participants? GDPR is a data protection regulation in Europe, right? So I think, and this links to another question that was coming before, around if the data will be publicly available after submission. So those two questions, what are GDPR and if data will be publicly available after submission?
Yeah, I don't mind taking this one again, Chang. Sorry, I'm just pushing in here. GDPR is, I just quickly Googled it, it's General Data Protection Regulation. It's EU regulation that we are bound by, that means that we can't share any personal data or information with another party without getting that contact's approval or permission to do so. So it's just a regulation, an EU regulation that binds us in terms of making sure that that the person is okay with us sharing that data before sharing that across. Does that make sense? Maybe Chang, you could explain it better, perhaps.
No,
that makes sense.
yeah, I think it totally makes sense.
Okay, cool. Okay, great. It's a bit of a tricky one. And then in terms of the question as to whether the data will be available, will be publicly available, yes. So if you are reporting to the OPCC, WWF OPCC, then your data will be publicly available. So your data will be publicly available on the CDP website in the Open Data Portal. Other cities will be able to see your data through the analytics tool, and I'm sure ICLEI and WWF will use your data in other ways. I'm not sure, Tabara, if you have more information about how the data gets
Yes, so the submission to the OPC will be publicly available, but I just need to check actually how will that work for the European cities. So let me come back to that on a follow-up, just to make sure that we're not giving a wrong message in here. That was a very good question, so thanks for that person that raised it. So I think we are really reaching the final stretch of this webinar, so I really want to move to the next section. So at first, an apology for those questions that had not been answered. As I said, please feel free to contact either CDP colleagues or ICLEI if you think your question have not been clarified, or if you have further questions. But as well, I think you can also reach us as OPCC, to the One Planet Cities team. I will provide the details in a second, in case there's something that you think we can also help you with. So thanks again, Chang. Thanks again, Pandora, for this marvelous exposition of answers. And now, taking advantage of what we have discussed, I think it's important to just remember what's the process for participating in the OPCC. So if you want to join WWF's One Planet City Challenge and inspire the world, there are 4 steps that you need to fulfill. The first one is that you need to confirm your interest in this process, in this initiative. You have not done it. Second, extremely important, you need to opt in for the OPCC through the CDP and ICLEI Unified Reporting System. If you have any question, please feel free to reach cdp@cdp.net. Very fundamental that you meet the data reporting requirements for the OPCC in the system. So basically the questions, you fill the questionnaire, paying attention to those questions that are mandatory for WWF, and particularly to put attention on section 8 regarding to energy, that despite it is not stated as a mandatory thing, we really value your comments in there as it is part of the evaluation process. And by the way, the final deadline to do this is July 10th. After July 10th, only minor amendments to the data submitted will be allowed. So it is very encourageable that by the deadline of July the 10th, 2018, you have submitted all your information. Remember that the reporting framework is the same as the Global Covenant of Mayors, that there are components that will help the OPCC in evaluate your participation. Those include targets, commitment, action plans, greenhouse inventories, and renewable energy and energy efficiency actions, that section 8 that I mentioned before. Reporting is on CDP ICLEI's unified reporting system. The colleagues of CDP and ICLEI have worked for a long time in a very great effort to unify all reporting requirements. So please make sure that you are reporting on CDP ICLEI's unified reporting system. And by the way, cities are invited to register in OPCC fundamental by clicking in the opt-in box in CDP platform. In case you have further questions, we have elaborated a couple of materials for you to review, might be useful in your preparation for data submission. The first one is the OPCC guidance for participating cities, which gives an overview of the process of reporting, as well as a general touch of the perspectives of the OPCC, the key features, and a more elaborated OPCC updated assessment framework that basically deepens into the methodological aspects of the whole evaluation framework of OPCC. I would like to also invite you to our next webinar that will take place on May 21st. It's our fourth webinar, and this one will be focusing on the key features of OPCC in terms of evaluation. So to say, the methods that we have defined to align your goals to the Paris Agreement, the framework that we will use for evaluating, and the approach that we will provide to participating cities to well, improve their commitment. So basically the feedback ad hoc process that we will be developing after your submission. For this webinar, we will have as guests our colleagues from Arab. Contact details for the One Planet Cities team, our core team based in Stockholm in Sweden, are opc@wwf.se. So any question, please submit it to us or to our CDP colleagues or to ICLEI when talking about the platform, the questionnaires, all the general participation of the OPCC. And finally, I think we are 2 minutes beyond the time. Let me just invite you to follow the One Planet City Challenge at our website, wfpanda.org at OPCC. You will find the recording of this webinar as well as our previous recording, the general overview of the OPCC, the science for 1.5 Celsius degrees for cities, as well as the information from our upcoming webinars and materials. So I think that's it for now. I want to extend my deep gratitude to Pandora and to Chang for participating in this third webinar. And of course, to all of you participant cities in this One Planet City Challenge, the initiative that transforms local action into global climate leadership. My name is Tabara Arroyo Curras. It was a pleasure to host this webinar and looking forward to see you in the next webinar. Thank you very much. The webinar is over. You may all go in peace. Ciao, ciao.